The crowded street buzzed with noise. Cars honking, people chatting, and vendors shouting about their fruit stalls. I stood frozen, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. There he was, Jason, the man who shattered my world 3 years ago. He sat in a rusty wheelchair, his clothes tattered, his face thin and tired. A cardboard sign hung around his neck. Please help. Need food. His eyes, once bright and full of charm, were dull, staring at the ground. My hands trembled as I reached into my bag and pulled out the letter I'd carried for years, waiting for this moment. I stepped forward, my shoes clicking on the pavement, and held it out to him. "Jason," I said, my voice steady but cold. His head snapped up, and his eyes widened like he'd seen a ghost. The letter shook in my hand as he took it, his fingers dirty and trembling. The crowd around us slowed, their curious eyes watching. He tore open the envelope, and as he read, his face crumpled. Tears streamed down his cheeks, and he let out a sob so loud it echoed through the street. People stopped, staring, whispering. Jason clutched the letter, his body shaking, and looked up at me with eyes full of pain. "Jenny, I'm so sorry," he choked out, his voice breaking. But I didn't say a word. I turned and walked away, leaving him crying in front of everyone. What was in that letter? Why did it break him? And why was I here, facing the man who left me at the airport with a fake ticket, chasing a dream that never came true? 3 years earlier, my life was a fairy tale, or so I thought. My name is Jenny, and I was 25, head over heels in love with Jason. He was the kind of guy who could make anyone smile. His laugh was warm, like sunshine, and his promises felt like gold. We met at a coffee shop where I worked, and he came in every day, ordering the same black coffee and flirting with me until I blushed. "Jenny," he'd say, leaning over the counter, "one day I'm taking you to Paris. We'll eat croissants under the Eiffel Tower." I'd laugh, thinking he was joking, but his eyes were serious. We dated for 2 years, and every moment felt like magic. Jason was a dreamer, always talking about adventurous sailing across oceans, hiking mountains, and exploring cities. He made me believe we could do anything together. When he proposed, it was perfect. He took me to a park at sunset, got down on one knee, and held up a simple silver ring. "Jenny, you're my home," he said. "Marry me, and let's chase every dream we've got." I said yes, tears in my eyes, and we hugged as the sky turned pink. We planned a small wedding, just family and a few friends. My mom helped me pick out a white dress that flowed like a cloud, and Jason's dad gave us his old car as a gift. But the real excitement was our honeymoon. Jason had been saving up for it, or so he said. "Paris," he promised, his eyes sparkling. "We'll stay in a fancy hotel, eat fancy food, and dance by the Seine River." I could already picture me in a flowy dress, him in a suit, laughing under twinkling lights. He showed me the tickets one night, printed on crisp paper, with our names and the destination. Paris, France. I held them, my heart racing. This was real. The night before our wedding, we sat on my couch, planning our trip. "Jenny," Jason said, holding my hand, "this is just the start. After Paris, we'll see the world. I promise." His words felt like a warm blanket, wrapping me in safety. I trusted him completely. How could I not? He was my Jason, my future, my everything. The wedding day was perfect. I walked down the aisle in my dress, my dad holding my arm, and Jason waiting at the end, smiling like I was the only person in the world. We said our vows, promising to love each other forever. My best friend, Mia, cried in the front row, and even Jason's tough guy brother wiped his eyes. That night, we danced under string lights, and Jason whispered, "Tomorrow, we're off to Paris." I fell asleep in his arms, dreaming of our adventure. The next morning, we rushed to the airport, suitcases bouncing behind us. I was so excited I could barely breathe. Jason held my hand, pulling me through the crowded terminal. "Gate 12, he said, checking the tickets. We reached the counter, and I handed my ticket to the lady behind the desk. She scanned it, then frowned. My stomach twisted. "Ma'am," she said, her voice sharp, "this ticket isn't valid." I laughed, thinking it was a mistake. "What do you mean?" "Check again." She did, and her frown deepened. "This is a fake ticket," she said. "It's not in our system." My heart stopped. I turned to Jason, waiting for him to explain. But he wasn't there. His suitcase was gone. I spun around, searching the crowd, calling his name. "Jason! Jason!" People stared, but he was nowhere. My phone buzzed a text from him. "I'm sorry, Jenny, I can't do this." That was it. No explanation, no goodbye. Just those words, burning into my eyes. I stood there, alone, my dream honeymoon crumbling, my heart breaking in front of strangers. I called Mia, sobbing so hard I could barely speak. She picked me up, and I stayed at her house that night, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment with Jason. How could he do this? Why did he lie? The fake ticket wasn't just paper, it was my trust, my love, my future, all torn apart. I tried calling him, but his number was disconnected. His apartment was empty when I checked. It was like he'd vanished from the earth. Days turned into weeks, and the pain didn't fade. I moved back in with my mom, quitting my coffee shop job because I couldn't face the memories. Mia tried to cheer me up, dragging me to movies or ice cream shops, but nothing worked. I felt hollow, like a piece of me was missing. My mom found a lawyer to annul the marriage, but it didn't erase the hurt. Jason had taken my heart and left me with nothing but questions. One night, I sat at my desk, staring at the fake ticket I'd kept. Why did I keep it? Maybe because it was proof that it all happened, that I hadn't imagined those 2 years of love. I grabbed a pen and started writing a letter. I poured out everything, my love, my pain, my anger. I wrote about the dreams he stole, the promises he broke. I didn't know if I'd ever send it, but it felt good to let it out. I sealed it in an envelope and tucked it away, promising myself that if I ever saw Jason again, he'd know what he did to me. Months passed, then years. I started to rebuild my life. I got a new job at a bookstore, made new friends, and even went on a few dates, though none of them felt right. But deep down, I was still angry. I wanted answers. I wanted Jason to face what he'd done. I carried that letter everywhere, a reminder of the hurt and the strength I was building. Then, one sunny afternoon, I saw him. I was walking through the city, heading to meet Mia for lunch, when I spotted a man in a wheelchair by the side of the street. His face was thinner, his hair messy, but it was him, Jason. My heart raced, a mix of rage and shock. He didn't see me at first, his head down, holding that cardboard sign. People passed him, some tossing coins, others ignoring him. I stood there, frozen, my hand clutching the letter in my bag. This was my chance. I took a deep breath and walked toward him. What would I say? Would I yell? Cry? Or just hand him the letter and walk away? My mind spun, but my feet kept moving. When I reached him, I said his name, and his eyes met mine. The look on his face shock, shame, fear told me he knew exactly who I was. I pulled out the letter, my hand steady despite the storm inside me. "Read this," I said, holding it out. He took it, his hands shaking, and the crowd around us grew quiet, watching. As he opened it, I saw something in his eyes break. He read the first line, and his face twisted in pain. Tears fell, and he sobbed, loud and raw, right there in the street. People stared, whispering, but I didn't care. The letter was my truth, and he was finally facing it. But what did it say? And why was he in that wheelchair, begging? What had happened to him in those 3 years? I turned and walked away, my heart pounding, leaving him with the letter and the weight of his past. But as I disappeared into the crowd, one question burned in my mind. What had brought Jason to this point, and would I ever know the truth? The street noise faded as I walked away from Jason, my heart still racing from the encounter. His sobs echoed in my mind, and the image of him clutching my letter in that rusty wheelchair burned behind my eyes. I should have felt free, like I'd finally gotten revenge. But instead, my chest felt tight. Why was he begging? What had happened to him? And why did I still care? I slipped into a small cafe, my hands shaking as I ordered a hot chocolate. Sitting by the window, I stared at the crowd outside, replaying the moment I handed him the letter. What had broken him so badly? I needed answers, but part of me was scared of what I'd find. 3 years ago, after Jason left me at the airport, my world fell apart. I spent weeks curled up at Mia's house, barely eating, barely sleeping. Every night, I'd stare at my phone, hoping for a message, an explanation, anything. But Jason was gone. His social media accounts were deleted. His phone number was dead, and his apartment was empty, like he'd never existed. My mom tried to help, cooking my favorite meals and sitting with me in silence when I couldn't talk. But the pain was a heavy stone in my chest, and no one could lift it. Mia was my rock. She'd drag me out for walks, saying, "Jenny, you can't let him win. You're stronger than this." One day, she forced me to go to a craft fair, hoping it would cheer me up. I wandered through the stalls, barely looking at the colorful scarves and handmade jewelry. That's when I saw Ida's small painting of the Eiffel Tower, glittering under a starry sky. My throat tightened. Paris. Our dream. I bought the painting, not sure why, and hung it in my room. It was a reminder of what I'd lost, but also of what I'd survive. Slowly, I started to rebuild. I got a job at a cozy bookstore, stacking shelves and helping kids pick out adventure stories. The work was quiet, and it gave me time to think. I started writing in a journal, spilling out my anger and hurt. That's where the letter to Jason began, just words on a page, raw and messy. I wrote about how he made me feel safe, how his promises lit up my world, and how his betrayal crushed me. I wrote about the fake ticket, the airport, the moment I realized he was gone. I didn't plan to give it to him, but writing it helped me breathe again. Life moved on. I moved into a small apartment, painted the walls yellow, and adopted a cat named Sunny. Mia and I went on little adventure-shicking trails, trying new restaurants, even taking a weekend trip to the beach. I laughed again, but Jason was always there, a shadow in my mind. I wondered where he was, what he was doing, why he'd lied. The fake ticket wasn't just a prank, it was cruel, planned, like he'd wanted to hurt me. I checked his old haunts, asked mutual friends, but no one knew anything. It was like he'd erased himself. One day, about a year after the airport, I got a strange message. It was from an unknown number. Just a few words. "I'm sorry. I had to." My heart stopped. Was it Jason? I texted back, begging for answers, but the number was disconnected. I showed Mia, and she frowned. "Jenny, don't let this mess with you. He's playing games again." But I couldn't shake it. Why apologize now? What did he have to do? The message haunted me, but it was another dead end. Time kept moving. I turned 27, then 28. I dated a guy named Tom for a few months, but it didn't feel right. My heart was still bruised, and trust was hard. I kept the letter to Jason in my bag, a habit I couldn't explain. It was my armor, a piece of my truth I could hold on to. I told myself if I ever saw him again, I'd make him read it. I'd make him feel what I felt. Then came that day in the city, when I saw him in the wheelchair. It wasn't just shock, it was like the world tilted. Jason, the charming, confident man who'd promised me Paris, was broken, begging on a dirty street. I didn't plan to confront him, but when I saw him, the letter burned in my bag. I had to give it to him. I had to see his face when he read it. And when he did, when he sobbed like his world was ending, I felt something shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a crack in the wall I'd built around my heart. Back in the cafe, my hot chocolate had gone cold. I pulled out my phone and texted Mia. I saw Jason. He's begging on the street. I gave him the letter. Her reply came fast. What? Where are you? I'm coming. 20 minutes later, Mia burst through the door, her eyes wide. Jenny, are you okay? What happened? I told her everything, the wheelchair, the sign, his tears. She listened, her face a mix of anger and worry. Why is he like that? Did you talk to him? I shook my head. I just gave him the letter and left. Mia grabbed my hand. Jenny, you need to know what's going on. This isn't normal. Jason doesn't just end up like that out of nowhere. She was right, but I was scared. What if the truth hurt more than the lies? Still, I couldn't let it go. I needed to know why he'd fallen so far and what had made him betray me. The next day, I went back to the street where I'd seen him. My stomach churned as I scanned the crowd. He wasn't there. I asked a vendor nearby, an old man selling apples. The guy in the wheelchair? Haven't seen him today, he said, shrugging. He's been around for a few weeks, though. Keeps to himself. I thanked him and kept looking, walking up and down the street, but Jason was gone. Panic crept in. Had he left because of me? Because of the letter? I went to the library and used their computer to search for him online. Nothing. No new social media, no news articles, no trace. But then I remembered his brother, Jake. Jake and Jason weren't close, but maybe he knew something. I found Jake's number in an old email and called, my heart pounding. He picked up after 3 rings. Jenny? He said, surprised. It's been forever. Jake, I saw Jason. I blurted. He's in a bad way. Begging on the street. In a wheelchair. Do you know what happened? There was a long pause, and my stomach sank. Jake, please. I need to know. He sighed. Jenny, it's complicated. Jason got into some trouble after he left you. Big trouble. I don't know everything, but he's not the same guy you knew. My heart raced. Trouble? What kind? Jake's voice was heavy. Meet me tomorrow at the park. I'll tell you what I know. But Jenny, be ready. It's not a happy story. I hung up, my mind spinning. Trouble? Was Jason hurt? In debt? On the run? The questions piled up, each one heavier than the last. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing Jason's face, his tears, the way he'd looked at me. The letter had hurt him, but there was more to this. Something big, something he'd hidden from me, even back then. The next morning, I headed to the park to meet Jake. My hands were sweaty, my bag heavy with the weight of that fake ticket, which I still carried like a scar. Jake was waiting on a bench, his face serious. He looked older, tired, like life had worn him down too. Jenny, he said, standing up. I'm sorry about what Jason did. I didn't know back then, I swear. I nodded, my throat tight. Just tell me what happened to him. Jake took a deep breath, and his next words hit me like a punch. Jason was working with some bad people, Jenny, before he left you. He didn't tell anyone, not even me. It's why he ran. My heart stopped. Bad people? What did that mean? Was Jason a criminal? Was our whole love story a lie? Jake's eyes were full of pity. There's more, he said, his voice low. But you need to hear it from him. I stared at him, my mind racing. Where is he, Jake? I need to see him. Jake hesitated, then scribbled an address on a piece of paper. He's been staying at a shelter sometimes. Try there. But Jenny, be careful. He's not the Jason you loved. I took the paper, my hands shaking. A shelter? Jason, my Jason, in a shelter? I thanked Jake and left, the address burning in my pocket. That afternoon, I stood outside the shelter, a gray building with peeling paint. People milled around, some carrying bags, others sitting on the steps. My heart pounded as I walked inside, clutching my bag. The woman at the desk looked up. "I'm looking for Jason," I said, my voice shaky. She frowned, checking a list. "Jason? Wheelchair guy? He was here last night, but he left this morning. Said something about needing to fix things." Fix things? Did he mean me? The letter? I felt a spark of hope, mixed with fear. I needed to find him. I needed the truth. As I stepped back outside, my phone buzzed. Another message from an unknown number. "Jenny, meet me at the old pier tonight, 8 p.m. I'll explain everything." My heart raced. It was him. It had to be. But as I stared at the message, a chill ran through me. Was this a trap? Or was Jason finally ready to face me? My heart thumped as I checked my phone again. "Jenny, meet me at the old pier tonight, 8 p.m. I'll explain everything." It was 7:55, and the pier was nearly empty, just a few seagulls circling overhead. I clutched my bag, the fake ticket still inside, a heavy reminder of Jason's betrayal. Was he really coming? Or was this another lie? The wind whipped my hair and I shivered, not just from the cold. If Jason showed up, what would he say? And was I ready to hear it? After leaving the shelter that afternoon, I'd called Mia to tell her about the message. "Jenny, this sounds bad," she said, her voice sharp. "You don't know what he's mixed up in. What if it's dangerous?" I knew she was right, but I couldn't stop. Jason's tears when he read my letter, Jake's cryptic words about bad people, it all swirled in my head. I needed the truth, even if it hurt. "I'll be careful," I promised Mia. "But I have to do this," she sighed, making me promise to text her every hour so she'd know I was safe. I spent the day trying to stay calm. I went back to my apartment, fed Sunny, and stared at the Eiffel Tower painting on my wall. It used to make me sad, but now it felt like a challenge. Jason had taken my dream, but I was stronger now. I wasn't the girl he left at the airport. Still, my hands shook as I got ready for the pier, pulling on a warm jacket and tucking the fake ticket deeper into my bag. It was my proof, my anchor. Whatever Jason said tonight, I'd face him with it. The pier was quiet when I arrived, the sun sinking into the ocean, painting the sky orange and purple. I walked to the end, where a single bench sat under a flickering lamp. No Jason. I checked my phone. 7:58. My stomach twisted. Was he standing me up again? I paced, the boards groaning under me, my mind racing. What had Jake meant by bad people? Was Jason a thief? A liar on a bigger scale than I'd imagined? The memory of his sobs, the way he'd looked at me with the letter, made me wonder if there was more to his story or if I was just hoping there was. At 8:02, I heard wheels on wood. I turned, and there he was, Jason, in his wheelchair, rolling toward me. His face was pale, his eyes sunken, but they locked onto mine with a mix of fear and something else, regret, maybe? He stopped a few feet away, his hands gripping the wheels. "Jenny," he said, his voice rough. "You came." I crossed my arms, my heart pounding. "You said you'd explain. So talk." My voice was sharp, but inside, I was shaking. He looked down, his shoulders sagging, and for a moment, I thought he'd cry again. Instead, he took a deep breath and started speaking. "Jenny, I never wanted to hurt you," he said. "What I did at the airport, it was the worst thing I've ever done. But I didn't have a choice." I scoffed, my anger flaring. "No choice? You left me with a fake ticket, Jason. You lied about Paris, about everything." He flinched, but I kept going. You broke my heart in front of everyone, so don't tell me you didn't have a choice. He nodded, his eyes wet. I deserve that. But please, let me tell you why. He paused, looking around like he was scared someone was watching. The pier was still empty, but his fear made me uneasy. 3 years ago, I got in over my head, he said. I was working at my old job, selling cars, but I started doing side deals. Shady ones. I owed money to some dangerous guys. They said if I didn't pay, they'd hurt me. Or worse, they'd hurt you. My heart skipped. Me? I whispered. He nodded. I didn't want you caught up in it, Jenny. I thought if I married you, if we went to Paris, we could start fresh. I was saving up, I swear, but they found out. The day before our wedding, they cornered me. Said I had to pay double, or they'd come after us both. I panicked. I made the fake ticket to buy time, to make it look like I was leaving with you. Then I ran. I stared at him, my mind spinning. You ran to protect me? My voice cracked, torn between anger and disbelief. Why didn't you tell me? We could have faced it together. He shook his head, his hands trembling. You don't know these people, Jenny. They don't mess around. I thought if I disappeared, they'd leave you alone. I thought you'd move on. I laughed, bitter and sharp. Move on? You broke me, Jason. I trusted you. He looked down, ashamed. I know, and I've paid for it every day since. He gestured to his wheelchair, his voice breaking. This was them. A year after I left, they found me, beat me so bad I couldn't walk right again. I've been hiding, scraping by, begging. I lost everything. My throat tightened. I wanted to scream, to tell him he deserved it, but the pain in his eyes stopped me. Was he telling the truth? Or was this another lie? I stepped closer, my voice low. Why the message, Jason? Why ask me to come here? He reached into his jacket and pulled out my letter, crumpled but still whole. This, he said, holding it up. When you gave it to me, I realized how much I hurt you. I had to tell you the truth, even if you hate me for it. I stared at the letter, my words that had made him cry. Part of me wanted to believe him, but another part screamed not to trust him. How do I know you're not lying now? I asked. He swallowed hard, then reached into his pocket again, pulling out a small, worn photo. It was us, from our engagement day, smiling in the park. I kept this, he said. It's all I have left of you. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Jenny. I just needed you to know why. Tears stung my eyes, but I blinked them back. I wanted to yell, to throw the fake ticket at him, but something held me back. His story made sense, but it didn't erase the hurt. I opened my mouth to speak, but a loud crack echoed across the pier. Jason's head snapped up, his eyes wide with fear. They're here, he whispered, grabbing my arm. Jenny, run! Before I could move, 2 men stepped out of the shadows, their faces hard and cold. One had a scar across his cheek, the other a grin that made my skin crawl. Jason, Scar said, his voice like gravel. You thought you could hide forever? Jason's grip on my arm tightened, his face pale. Leave her out of this, he begged. She's got nothing to do with it. Scar laughed, stepping closer. She's here, isn't she? That makes her part of it. My heart raced as I realized what was happening. These were the bad people Jake had warned me about. And now, I was trapped on the pier with them and Jason. I pulled my arm free, my mind racing. What do you want? I asked, my voice shaking but firm. Scar tilted his head, studying me. Jason owes us, a lot. And you're gonna help him pay, Jason shouted. No, Jenny, get out of here. But the other man blocked my path, his grin widening. My phone buzzed in my pocket, Mia. Probably checking on me, but I couldn't reach it. The men stepped closer, and Jason's face was pure panic. Jenny, I'm sorry, he whispered. his voice breaking. I looked at him, then at the men, my heart pounding. I wasn't the scared girl from the airport anymore. But as Scar reached into his jacket, pulling out something that glinted in the lamplight, I realized I might not make it off this pier. What did they want from me? And could I trust Jason to save Mayor? Was he still playing me? The pier felt like a trap, the dark water below swallowing the light from the flickering lamp above. Scar's hand gripped something metallic, a knife, glinting coldly as he stepped closer. The other man, Grin, blocked my path back to shore, his smile chilling me more than the ocean wind. Jason's face was pale, his hands clutching the wheels of his chair as he whispered, "Jenny, I'm sorry." My heart pounded, but I wasn't the broken girl from 3 years ago. I'd faced Jason's betrayal, rebuilt my life, and carried that letter to remind me of my strength. Now, with 2 dangerous men closing in, I had to find a way out, or this pier would be the end of me. My mind raced as Scar waved the knife. His eyes locked on Jason. "You thought you could skip out on us forever, Jason?" he growled. "You owe us 50 grand. Time's up." Jason's voice shook. "I don't have it. I told you, I've got nothing." Scar's gaze shifted to me, his lips curling. "Then she's gonna help you pay." My stomach dropped. $50,000? What had Jason gotten himself into? I took a step back, my heel hitting the edge of the pier. The water churned below, dark and endless. My phone buzzed again in my pocket, Mia, probably worried I hadn't texted. If I could just reach it. "I don't have money," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I'm not part of this." Grin laughed, stepping closer. "You're here, sweetheart. That makes you part of it." Jason's eyes darted between me and the men. "Leave her alone," he shouted, his voice cracking. "This is my mess." Scar ignored him, pointing the knife at me. "You've got a job, don't you? Nice apartment? You'll get us the money. Or we take it another way." My heart raced, but I saw something in Jason's face, panic, yes, but also determination. He was scared, but not just for himself. I needed time. I glanced at Jason, hoping he'd catch my signal. "Why does he owe you?" I asked, stalling. Scar sneered. "He was our runner. Moved product for you Scars. Cash, other stuff. Thought he could keep some for himself. Bad move." Jason's head dropped, shame washing over him. So Jake was right. Jason had been mixed up with criminals. Our whole love story, the promises, Paris, was it all a lie to cover his tracks? But then Jason spoke, his voice low but clear. "Jenny, I loved you. That was real. I got in with these guys before I met you, and I couldn't get out. I wanted to take you to Paris to escape them, to start over. But they found me." His eyes met mine, raw and desperate. "I'm so sorry." For a moment, I saw the Jason I'd loved, the one who made me laugh, who promised me the world. But the knife in Scar's hand snapped me back. "Enough talk," Scar said, stepping toward me. "Time to." Before he could finish, Jason lunged forward in his wheelchair, ramming into Scar's legs. The knife clattered to the boards, and Scar stumbled, cursing. "Jenny, run!" Jason yelled. I didn't think. I bolted past Grin, my shoes pounding the pier. He grabbed for me, but I ducked, sprinting toward the shore. Behind me, I heard shouts and a thud, Jason's chair hitting something, or someone hitting him. My heart screamed to go back, but my legs kept moving. I reached the end of the pier, fumbling for my phone. My hands shook as I dialed Mia. "Jenny?" she answered, her voice tense. "Where are you?" "Pier," I gasped. "Call the police, now." I hung up and turned back, my breath catching. Grin was dragging Jason's chair toward the edge of the pier. Scar limping behind, knife in hand again. Jason was fighting, swinging his fists, but he was no match. I froze, torn. Run and save myself? Or help Jason, the man who'd broken me? I couldn't leave him. I grabbed a loose board from the pier's railing, my hands trembling but firm. "Let him go!" I shouted, charging back. Grin laughed, but Scar's eyes narrowed. "You're making this worse," he said, raising the knife. I swung the board, hitting his arm hard. He yelped, dropping the knife again, and I kicked it into the water. Grin lunged at me, but Jason grabbed his leg, pulling him down. The three of us were a tangle of shouts and fists, the pier creaking under us. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Mia had come through. Scar cursed, grabbing Grin. "We're out!" he snarled, and they ran, disappearing into the shadows. Jason slumped in his chair, blood trickling from his lip. I dropped the board, my knees weak, and sank beside him. "Jenny," he whispered, "you should have run." I shook my head, tears burning my eyes. "I'm not you," I said, my voice sharp. He flinched, but nodded. The police arrived, lights flashing, and I told them everything: Jason's debt, the men, the knife. They took Jason to the hospital and promised to track down Scar and Grin. As they loaded him into an ambulance, he looked at me, his eyes heavy. "Thank you," he said. "I don't deserve it." I didn't answer. I couldn't. The police drove me home, and Mia was waiting, hugging me so tight I couldn't breathe. "You're crazy," she said, crying. "But you're okay." I wasn't okay, not really. My heart was a mess: anger, pity, and something else I couldn't name. Days later, I visited Jason in the hospital. He was bandaged, bruised, but alive. "They caught them," he said, his voice quiet. "Scar and his buddy. They're in jail." I nodded, sitting beside his bed. "Why didn't you tell me back then?" I asked. "About the trouble you were in?" He looked away, his hands twisting the blanket. I was ashamed. I thought I could fix it myself. I thought leaving you was the only way to keep you safe. He paused, his eyes meeting mine. "Your letter. It showed me how much I hurt you. I'll carry that forever." I took a deep breath, pulling the fake ticket from my bag. I held it up, my hands steady. "This is what you left me with," I said. "A lie." I tore it in half, letting the pieces fall to the floor. "I'm done carrying it." Jason's eyes filled with tears, but he didn't speak. I stood, feeling lighter, like a weight had finally lifted. As I walked out, I realized something. Jason's truth didn't erase his betrayal, but it gave me closure. He'd been a liar, yes, but he'd also been trapped, scared, human. I didn't forgive him, not fully, but I understood. I went home, took down the Eiffel Tower painting, and packed it away. Paris was still a dream, but it was mine now, not his. Months later, I heard Jason had moved to a new city, starting over in a rehab program. I hoped he'd find peace, but I didn't need to know. I was building my own life stronger, wiser, free. The letter had broken him, but tearing up that ticket had freed me. And as I booked a solo trip to Paris, I smiled, knowing I'd write my own story from now on. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate you taking the time to be part of this journey. If you enjoyed this video and would love to see more content like this, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support means everything and helps me keep creating stories you love. See you in the next one.